Welcome to the Health Trip Podcast. My name is Jill Foose. I'm a functional medicine and integrative nutrition health coach. I created this podcast to bring you along as we travel down intriguing, science-packed roads, debunking old medical paradigms and perusing new innovative therapies and modalities with the finest functional medicine doctors, practitioners, and like-minded biohackers while living our best life. Enjoy the show. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Health Trip Podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about red light therapy. I purchased my first red light therapy box about 10 months ago, and I bought it in order to help stimulate mitochondrial health. And if you go back in biology class, when you were in high school, you learned that mitochondria produced ATP, and ATP is our energy currency that our body needs in order to run the ship. So I'm also in menopause, and I know that as I age and go through menopause, my mitochondrial health is going to degrade every year. So I'm always looking for things to help support my lifestyle going through this this period in my life. And so for my hair, if you've been following me for a while, you know that I use a red light therapy cap from Laser Cap. I use a professional grade cap every single night for 15 minutes. As part of my stacked protocol to reverse hair loss. And so I bought this other box, this red light therapy box around the same time, and I use it on my face and I use it on my body. And it has helped me achieve a lot of other goals that I had for myself. And the one that I purchased was made by EMR-Tek, which is a Canadian-based company. And so I invited the founder, his name is Kris. I invited him onto the podcast to talk about and share his expertise in red light therapy and his own personal experience and why he became so interested in it and then created a company around that. So Kris Sweeting is the founder. It's a Canadian-based red light therapy device company. And at 3 years old, Kris developed an autoimmune condition called vitiligo. And vitiligo is a condition in which the skin loses its pigment cells called melanocytes. This results in discolored patches in different areas of the body, including the skin, hair, and mucous membranes. Kris met with many doctors, and the advice ranged from staying out of the sun to using an umbrella to shield himself from sunlight. By 9 years old, the disease had spread all over his body, and his mother discovered a doctor in Germany who specialized in light medicine and prescribed narrowband ultraviolet light therapy. By age 14, the pigment had returned to normal, except for his hands and feet. And Kris's condition is now stable. His life experiences are what led him to believe that all people deserve natural options that are effective and safe to improve their overall health and wellness. So this is going to be quite a podcast, listening to his story from when he was a young child to now being an adult and seeing the many benefits that red light therapy has to offer for so many people out there. A little medical disclaimer before we dive in. This podcast is for educational purposes only. So always consult your primary care physician or your functional medicine doctor before you start on any new modalities or therapies. So let's dive into red light therapy. Hi, Kris. Welcome to the Health Trip Podcast. So glad to have you here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Pleasure.
I like the background where you are. It looks very peaceful.
Yeah, it's pretty peaceful. It's super remote. I'm from Toronto, but recently, just feel better outside. So I'm in like a little cabin up in the middle of nowhere. We don't even have like internet here, so it's pretty rough, but it's That's very quiet. I like it.
Very nice. So in my intro, before we jumped on the podcast, I talked about your early childhood years and dealing with an autoimmune condition called vitiligo and how that led you to light therapy and then eventually to start your own red light therapy device company. So can you tell the listeners just a little bit more about your early years and how this all connected for you?
Yeah, so it started when I was 3. Obviously, I don't remember, when I was 3, but my mom does, so I have to rely on, what she was said. Basically, she noticed a couple spots on my body when I was like 3. took me to the doctor. They're like, okay, this is vitiligo. It's the same disease Michael Jackson had. Um, and you know, from the time I was 3 to the time I was 9, it progressed as it usually does, to the point where, you know, it was on my neck, it was under my eyes, parts of my face. It literally covered my entire body. Like my whole elbow here was just completely white. Um, and so it's vitiligo is actually a really like it's considered like one of the more psychologically disturbing diseases to actually have, in terms of how it affects people's mental health. It was pretty difficult, but my mom is, you know, somewhat of a scientist. She actually directs a blood lab right now, but you know, she's into all the science and tech, and she found this doctor in Germany. Her name was Karen Schellreuter. She's a PhD researcher, also a dermatologist, and she invented this cream, um, which essentially reduced hydrogen peroxide concentration. So that's like a free radical. It's, you know, when you put hydrogen peroxide on your hair, it bleaches it. My vitiligo is so stable now that I'm like, you know, I'm kind of playing with my hair for the first time in my life. I've been able to dye it. You know, I feel comfortable. I don't put it on the scalp, but yeah, hydrogen peroxide will bleach your skin. It will bleach your hair. It will also destroy your melanocytes, which are the cells that produce melanin. So in vitiligo patients, the hydrogen peroxide levels are way too high. So basically, she made this cream that reduced hydrogen peroxide levels, stimulated this thing called catalase, and so reducing the hydrogen peroxide, increasing the catalase, and then I would go into this tanning bed that was in my room. It's called narrowband ultraviolet B. So I'd put the cream on, and then I'd wait 10 minutes, go into my room, and I had to do this, you know, since I was 3, but it was with different kind of wavelengths of light until we finally got it right. And I would have to do this every day. And then it started working with this particular combination. It's called pseudo-catalase, the cream, and narrowband ultraviolet B. And that combination ended up repigmenting my skin. So by the time that I was around 14, 15, thank God, I had repigmented like most regions of my body. You can still kind of see it on my hand. Like there's right there,
Yeah.
you know, on the tips of my fingers. It's really not that bad.
Yeah, I see.
On my hands, my feet are pretty brutal, you know. It's yeah, it's impossible basically, they say, to repigment on your hands and feet. Um, and really, you know, when you get older in life, it's also really hard to repigment. It's a lot easier when you're young. So yeah.
And so how did this experience lead you down to develop a red light therapy company?
Well, essentially, I was kind of I guess it's kind of weird looking back at it. I would like read scientific studies when I was like 15 years old, just like like PubMed studies. And so I was like really interested in science. So I was like interested in working out and like optimizing my testosterone and yada yada, just all that stuff. And then I realized that like light could like well, obviously I had the experience where it repigmented my skin. So I was like kind of privy to like, wow, this can really affect biology. And then I was like, well, oh, I heard red light can increase testosterone. And then I like did some research. I just went straight down the rabbit hole, and it's like, oh, like light can be applied to all these different like, you know, like pathologies, and it's like non-invasive. It's got like no side effects and just like benefits. So I started to, you know, wonder a little bit why it wasn't implemented more. And I still don't really understand why this, you know, the doctor Karen Schellreuter, why, you know, no dermatologists know about this. I mean, it's 20 years old, this treatment. It works in 95% of patients. It's got to be the economic influence from the pharmaceutical companies that they just don't really want this stuff out there. It's got to be. I mean, you can't have a thing with 95% success rate for a disease that's basically, considered like, not that treatment, effective. Um, you can't have it 20 years and have doctors being like, what are you talking about? I've never even heard of this. It's just very strange.
Right.
And that's essentially what led me to make red light devices. We'll probably get into ultraviolet devices at some point, but Health Canada is pretty strict on UV because you can really burn yourself with it. I've experimented with the light to a certain extent, and yeah, it's a very strange burn you can get with some of these isolated wavelengths of light. It's really weird.
Yeah, let's talk about the wavelengths of light, because there are some wavelengths that the human eye can't even recognize. We don't see those colors, correct?
Yeah, so near infrared light, for example, your eye won't decode that as anything. It'll be invisible. Um, but you know, our lights emit near infrared light. If it's very, it can generally it's picked up by most cameras and displayed as like dim violet. Um, but yeah, no, your eye can't see it.
Right. So on your device, for example, the lights that don't come on, are those the near infrared lights that we can't see?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you'll see if you take your phone and you take so the digital photoreceptors in your in your phone will essentially pick up the near infrared light and display it as violet, but it's going to be like really dim. Like you might not really even be able to see it because it gets drowned out by the actual red visible light. It's pretty dim.
Yeah.
If you were to turn off the red visible light, it would look violet, but it's gets drowned out. So
Yeah, because I've had some of my clients, after receiving the device, they'll turn it on and say, well, what's going on? Why are some of these lights not going on? I say, well, those are the near infrared that your eye is not going to pick up on. But
yeah,
I want to tackle this podcast ground up for people who don't know what red light therapy is. A lot of my listeners are just sort of getting into functional medicine. So I think this is a great podcast to bring awareness to red light therapy and all the different mechanisms that it can serve. So let's start with the basics. There's a lot of different names out there. And I know that before I discovered your company, I was very confused about how to buy a device as well. And so there's LEDs, there's red light therapy, there's the near infrared light that we were just talking about, there's photobiomodulation, there's low level laser therapy. What is all of this stuff? Can you break this down?
yes. So essentially, it's all the same stuff.
Okay.
It's really all the same thing. Like low level LLT, low level laser therapy or light therapy, red light therapy, photobiomodulation. It's all the same thing. Phototherapy it technically falls under this category, but phototherapy is more like ultraviolet. Um, uh, so yeah, I mean they're all essentially what you just described. It's the same things. Near
Right.
infrared light is part of
So don't get
photobiomodulation.
tripped up over all the different titles.
No, definitely
Okay.
not.
Okay. And then what is the mechanism in our body that is making this work?
So I think there's two. There's one. Essentially, it increases the amount of chemical energy in available to your cells. So your cells have like 100,000 plus processes that they need to complete every day. All of it takes chemical energy, which is also known as ATP. Um, and certain wavelengths of light, specifically 630, 670, and 830. So those are the main wavelengths emitted by our lamps. So essentially what happens is there's 5 proteins in the electron transport chain. The fourth one, these 3 wavelengths of light, 630, 670, and 830, they hit the fourth enzyme in that electron transport chain. They release nitric oxide. Nitric oxide and oxygen essentially battle with each other. When nitric oxide is released, oxygen's more effectively processed. The net result is increased adenosine triphosphate, or ATP. So essentially, in layman's terms, you're turbocharging your cells, you're giving them more energy. And we don't make any medical claims on our devices. I just like to stay out of that
Right.
because it can get really hectic. Um, but essentially, like, all the diseases that are killing people right now, Alzheimer's, heart disease, type 2 diabetes, um, there's different types of mitochondrial or, like, energy related cancers. These are all fundamentally from one, inflammation, and two, a lack of chemical energy. And so the second thing that red and near red light can do, is resolve acute inflammation. And it does this by, so for example, like, it speeds up wound healing. People say that's because it resolves acute inflammation. Um, it does this by modulating. So there's essentially there's these things in the blood called soluble protein mediators. Um, fractalkines, chemokines. They're chemical messengers in the blood, and what red light does is it modulates these messengers, so the message is no longer, so for example, so it modulates it to be a more anti-inflammatory message. um like, it modulates the cytokines, it modulates the chemokines, fractalkines. There's just a bunch of different messengers in the blood, and it changes up the cocktail. It results in a anti-inflammatory message to the body. I hope I explained. Sometimes, I explain it different ways, and it's a little difficult sometimes.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And in terms of so what I find is really interesting is when you're explaining that, to me it sounds like it can act on lots of different pathologies in our body by targeting different areas in our body, but
Yeah,
essentially
because
working the same way.
yeah, so essentially it's like, if you're addressing energy deficiency and inflammation,
Mhm.
that's pretty significant. Even if it only works a bit, which, from my experiences, these things are they definitely do something to the body. Like, people experience pretty significant changes in what's called heart rate variability. These
Mhm.
are just things that I can honestly say that I've seen. Um, and this one's the most repetitive. Like, people who are aura rings, they start red light therapy, they have massive increases in HRV, like, um, maybe like 15 to 30 points over, a week or 2 week span. So that indicates your body's dealing with stress better, probably because it has reduced inflammation and more energy.
Yep.
But, if you address the two fundamental pathways of disease, which are lack of chemical energy and inflammation, then, you're probably, theoretically, there's going to be some significant benefit.
Oh, I think I started about 10, 11 months ago, and I wear the Whoop app. And I can tell you that my sleep has greatly increased in terms of my deep sleep, my REM, um, and my heart rate variability. Like I wake up and I'm in the green zone all the time. And I was never like that before using the red light therapy device. But I think what is really um, necessary is consistency. This is not like a once a week type of program, but I use it every day and I see
Mhm.
results, and it's just built into my lifestyle.
Yeah, and so, like, the thing about it is, like, you don't have to be super complicated about it because of the anti-inflammatory responses due to blood irradiation. So, like, you can really just, like, that's why it doesn't matter if you irradiate. Like, they did tests on this. They irradiated, like, the foot of, like, a mouse or something, and it had, like, cuts on the back of it or something like that. I forget exactly what the study was, but it doesn't affect, like, you don't have to irradiate the direct tissue to have, like, wound healing benefits. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can just irradiate the blood. It's because it's modulating the message
Right.
in the blood. Yeah.
Right,
So
right. So let's talk about some of the applications where red light therapy is beneficial and making a difference for people. One of the big ones is pain relief.
hmm
Pain
yeah.
relief.
Yeah, generally people say that the pain, like, literally, when like about 30 seconds after they apply the device to the area, the pain disappears like almost completely. Then it will return, but it will be a little bit less generally. I've had people, a lot of some women with pregnancy, you know, they have issues and they use it and they're able to, like, you know, go about their day. Um, definitely helps with pain.
So this is so it's safe to use for pregnant women.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying that. I honestly don't know. You know, but I think what I know is Jack Cruz, a friend of mine. Uh, he's a neurosurgeon. I believe he recommends that pregnant women get direct sunlight. You know, is if there's any contraindications with pregnant women, I'm not personally aware of them, other than one study in rats where photobiomodulation increased the birth weight of the mice, that, you know, the offspring. That's the only study I know about that.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure about
Yeah.
if it's safe or not.
And what about I want to talk about the chronic inflammation and erectile dysfunction, because
Mhm.
I have read a lot of information how red light therapy supports the manufacturing of more testosterone and can help by increasing the nitric oxide production, which you were sort of
Yeah,
alleviating earlier.
yeah.
So have you seen this in some of the people who have bought your devices or read any studies on sexual dysfunction?
Yeah, so so there's that famous kind of article out with about where Ben Greenfield
Yeah.
like tripled his, so like 300% increase. I'm like, Ben, you must have had some pretty low levels, you know. Um, I don't know. I think that's a little high. I mean, like, that's a pretty serious increase. That's like anabolic steroids. I
Right.
don't think it's like that. Um, so I'm not sure about that. What I can tell you, and this might be TMI, but I'm gonna do it anyways. And it happens for everyone. So, you know, if you shine it on the junk down there, there's something happening because they're moving around, and it's, you know, there's something going on. It's extremely strange, and, you know, I'm not a huge fan of talking about it, but it's the absolute truth. If you don't believe me, try it for yourself.
Well, it makes perfect sense, right? If it promotes blood circulation and it
Right.
increases nitric oxide production, and you have a healthy lifestyle and you're doing all the things, getting sleep, managing your stress, it can only help with erectile dysfunction.
I believe it. I believe. No, a lot of the studies I've read are a long time ago. I believe it increases luteinizing hormone. I
Mhm,
think it increases the mitochondrial activity in the Leydig cells,
mhm.
and it results in increased luteinizing hormone, which down the road increases testosterone. That's
Exactly.
how I think it works.
Yeah. What about skincare? I use it on my face every morning after I put on a nice serum. I go into the room where my red light therapy device is and I sit in front of it for 20 minutes that way. I do 20
Mhm.
minutes a day. And so I'm getting it on my face, but obviously my full body as well. And I have seen just in the 10, 11 months I've been using the device, my skin really looks good. Like,
Mhm.
you know, I'm going through menopause, and a lot of times when women are going through menopause, because of our declining estrogen, our skin doesn't look that great.
Right.
And I have noticed that, you know, because I always want to start with the lifestyle, that's setting the foundation for a lifestyle. But I live a healthy lifestyle, do all the things, and this has only helped promote really nice skin for myself.
hmm I think so. The serum that you're applying, does it have any? Is it antioxidant based? Like, it has
Yes.
a, yeah. So there's something really interesting that's kind of emerging in the scientific world, and I don't think many people know about it. But so topical antioxidants in combination with photobiomodulation or red light therapy or LLT, same thing. Um, Near infrared light therapy, that all the same thing. Um, like vitamin C serums, vitamin E serums, I think they are synergistic with the red light therapy. There's 3 studies that show coenzyme Q10 is synergistic. That's an antioxidant.
Yep.
It's synergistic. If taken orally, it's synergistic. It literally enhances the effects of photobiomodulation. There's a new study, I think it was in 2018, something like that. It says green tea and red light, a powerful duo in skin rejuvenation. And then basically the women achieved the skin rejuvenation, generally realized in 90 treatments and only 9 treatments. So applying a green tea serum with which is an antioxidant,
Yep.
they attributed the effects to epicatechin gallate, which is like one of the main antioxidants in green tea. And so and then there's another study with reversatrol, which is like an antioxidant from grapes generally. It was synergistic with photobiomodulation. And then there's another study with green tea that showed if they applied green tea to melanoma, like skin cancer melanoma, and then irradiated it with I think 670 nanometers, so that's deep red light. It reduced like mutation frequency in the cells by like 17,000, like 1,700%, something like that. So there's something going on with these antioxidants. Personally, with my experience, with applying the cream and then putting the red light on, based on the available data, I think one of the most promising skin rejuvenation protocols in the world right now is the application of topical antioxidants plus red light therapy.
Right. And they're coming out with all these different like a derma roller, but there's red light therapy in the derma roller. I've seen them on Amazon. I don't recommend ever buying devices like this off of Amazon, but it'll be really interesting to see on a professional scale. You can go and get a facial, right? You can go and get a medical facial where they are using red light therapy. But now I have this at home and I find myself not having to go get facials as often, where before maybe I went 3-4 times a year, and now I go maybe once or twice. And my the woman who does my facials said that my skin in between the longer time of sessions she said your skin just looks unbelievable. So I know that there's something different going on here. I think it has to do with increasing the fibroblast production, which is a type of cell that helps manufacture the collagen and the elastin, which is under our skin here.
And yeah, they did a study on that, and they found, because people always ask me like, is red light or near infrared light? So is it like the red visible light or the heat energy? Is that like, which one's better? Like, should I just use straight red for the best results? And they studied this and they found that it was 633 nanometer light plus 830 nanometer light. Like they isolated them all: control, 630, 830, and then 633, and then 633 plus 830. And they found, and they did ultrasonography of the collagen smears, and they found it was pretty obvious, looking at the pictures, that is near infrared light plus red visible light was the best.
Yeah.
But another thing is so sorry, talking too much. In Asia, they use red light therapy for skin whitening, and topical application, like antioxidants, like vitamin C, vitamin E. There's all these different kind of brands. They all say brightening because they're not allowed to say whitening. It's like you can't really. It's like taboo to say whitening, they think, in the cosmetics industry. So they say brightening, but it means whitening. And so what happens is vitamin C actually most antioxidants interfere with melanogenesis. So they don't block, but they reduce the production of melanin. I think this is because melanin is essentially, its main purpose is photoprotection, protection from the sun. And when the sunlight comes down, so melanin's generated by the sunlight, UVB, it hits the skin, the melanin is generated, and then it's actually shifted from the UVB, triggering it. The UVB triggers it and shifts it to the apex of the nucleus. Then the ultraviolet A comes down, creates a bunch of free radicals, and the melanin absorbs it, and it oxidizes it, and that's why you turn brown. Like if you cut an apple in half, expose the insides to oxygen, it turns brown. That's the exact same thing that's happening in your melanin. Okay, the melanin's acting as a free radical sponge, soaking up these free radicals. But if you apply vitamin C, that's an antioxidant. If it's formulated correctly, it's soaking up free radicals. So probably the melanin is not as oxidized because there's not as much free radicals, and you don't turn as brown. I think
Yeah,
that's probably.
I use a vitamin C and vitamin E product. It's like an oil that I mix in with my face cream every single day, because also it protects you from pollution, right? And I live in the city of Chicago, and so it's just another layer of protection on my skin as well.
That's what I'm saying. Like, and antioxidants actually protect from the sun. They reduce everything that sunscreen does, basically. Erythema, which is essentially the skin reddening or the burn. They decrease edema. They decrease mutation frequency. They decrease free radical damage. And so when people like some dermatologists won't mention to you that there are alternatives to sunscreen. The application of topical antioxidants is for sure one. The most studied and practical use of antioxidants applied to the skin is photoprotection, sealed, done deal. And then, it's funny because red light is actually photoprotective too. And so in the morning, there's red light when the sun rises, right? That's why the sun's red in the morning. That red light preconditions your skin to accept the ultraviolet radiation that's emitted in the afternoon. And then, as I mentioned before, red light resolves acute inflammation that has just been induced, right? The ultraviolet light just induced inflammation in your skin. Now you're seeing the sunset, you're getting that red light on your skin, and it reduces the inflammation. The skin can go on to the proliferative dermal remodeling phase, and then it starts again. Your skin is preconditioned by the sunrise, and so you can actually use and I can't quantify how protective it would be, and I'm not saying my devices provide any protection. I'm just explaining the science based on the literature available. You could theoretically apply red light to your skin and then put on, or preferably put on, the antioxidant serum, apply the red light, and that would be more effective, more photoprotective than red light or antioxidants, separately. And I think it's like, it's a good
You're saying
alternative.
that that's an alternative to using traditional sunscreen, which, by the way, we all know traditional sunscreen that's on the market is not good for us because of the very harsh chemicals that are in it. So if you're going to use sunscreen, like when I do, I use a mineral-based one, which a lot of people don't like because it's hard to get into their skin and not look white and pasty, but I don't really care about that.
The other thing is, Jill, it doesn't interfere with your natural human photoprotective response. Like I said, the UVB hits the skin, generates the melanin. The melanin shifts to the apex of the nucleus. It forms what's called a supranuclear cap. It's like a little umbrella shield of melanin. Like, do you really think we should be preventing that kind of thing, from happening? Like, that sounds like some pretty serious protection that's like evolved under like millions of years. And then it doesn't interfere with vitamin D synthesis in your skin. If you're putting on sunscreen, you're interfering with the vitamin D synthesis. If inflammation is like the underlying cause of all disease, and if vitamin goes up, inflammation goes down because they're inversely correlated. If inflammation goes up, vitamin D goes down.
Right.
So do you really want to prevent your vitamin D status from rising by applying sunscreen with chemicals absorbed in your blood.
Right. No, that makes
I don't
perfect
know.
sense. That makes perfect sense. When I was away a couple weeks ago and I forgot to put on anything, including my vitamin C and vitamin E. And I went out
Mhm.
into the sun, which I always do in the morning anyway, to reset my circadian rhythm in my eyes. And so I was out there for a bit longer and I got a little bit of sunburn on my face. I immediately used the red light therapy and the sunburn went away within 2 days, which is not the
Yep.
usual pattern for myself. It was
Mhm.
incredible. I was very
Mhm.
nervous that I was, I ruined my skin. I'm very, conscious about my skin health. And
Sure.
the red light therapy device brought the redness down, brought the inflammation down, and I was back to where I normally was within 2 days.
Yeah. Yeah. Mhm. That makes sense. From what I've seen, the red light tends to speed up healing probably around, like, it doubles the healing time.
Yeah,
So, and the faster you apply it, so say I just cut myself, the acute inflammation happened, the faster you apply it, the better.
absolutely. Let's talk about hair growth because I work with a lot of, especially a lot of women going through menopause who are experiencing hair loss.
Mm.
And I've been battling it myself for over 2 decades, and have completely reversed it as of about 10, 11 months ago. So right now I use a professional grade laser cap on my scalp, which we talked about before the podcast, and it has
Yep.
completely been an amazing addition to my hair growth protocol. But tell
Mhm.
us about your experience and your hair loss with red light therapy as well.
Yeah, so actually it's funny because the reason why I've made my first red light, I literally made my fire wave, and it's a funny story actually. It's a little bit of a long one. So you can see that I was, receding,
Yep.
and that happened when I was 20. I'm 31 now. I literally same. I look back at my health card and I see the exact same, like no regression. Um, I was really worried about that when I was around 20. As you might imagine. And so I had figured out that red light, well, specifically near infrared light, you can shine on your head and it affects, hair growth significantly, or at least it said it did. So I wanted to try it. So I made this device, and I would literally uh, put on a meditation and um, just lay on my bed and turn this fire wave on and just beam it on my head at about this far. I didn't know what I was doing. Um, I was just like, it can't hurt, right? And generally, you're willing to try pretty much anything.
Yes.
Um, so I don't recommend it on the bed anymore. I'm recommending a yoga mat because I did fall asleep one time and the lamp tipped over and burned a hole in my pillow. So
Oh gosh.
yeah, don't recommend it on the bed, but take the lesson from me. So yeah, yoga mats are good, a lot more stable. And so there's literally, so we're talking about androgenic alopecia right now. And again, I'm not saying my device does this. I'm just saying that red and near infrared light looks like it can.
Yeah.
So one way is it reduces scalp DHT. Um, DHT is essentially a hormone. Some testosterone converts to dihydrotestosterone, DHT.
Yeah.
This hormone binds to the hair follicle and literally suffocates it. It cuts off all the blood flow, oxygen, nutrient delivery. When you shine, there's a quote in essentially quantum biology, which is a kind of a newer science. Um, Wherever energy goes, blood flows. So you're shining this red light on the head. It would probably work to a certain extent with other light too. Wherever, so you're drawing blood. Essentially, that's the main reason, the mechanism that your hair is stopping growing. It's getting cut off a blood supply. So that's good right out the gate. Two, you're providing more chemical energy to the hair follicle. Okay. Um, Three, the third thing is that it looks like it stimulates epidermal stem cells, which results in the shift from um, telogen phase or dormant phase hair
Mhm.
follicles, which, by the way, can stay in that telogen dormant phase for 2 to 3 years before they commit apoptosis or cell death, at which point you can only get a hair transplant. So you got about 2 to 3 years once you see them gone, and it shifts those telogen dormant hair follicles back into what's called anagen or growth phase hair follicles, and that's also why some people see some shedding at the beginning. And this is, I've noticed, as it's not, I don't get tons of reports, but I probably got about 10. The fourth way, so yeah, basically it shifts those dormant hair follicles into growth, back into growth phase. The fourth thing, which I thought was the most interesting, and I believe this is theoretical, they think that it happens, that it reduces scalp DHT. So drugs like finasteride, which have, like, honestly, my best friend took it and stopped in 2 weeks because he had severe sexual issues. Yeah. Anyways, he is terrified of losing his hair. So for him to stop it and just be like, no, never trying again, must have been terrible. But then, I know his brother took it and had no problem with it. So it's kind of like a lottery, I guess, who gets the bad side effects. That reduces scalp DHT. Actually, it reduces DHT throughout the whole body. And essentially, they think that red light or near-infrared light, red and near-infrared light, does that as well on the scalp. Some advice that I have is to, ask your doctor, if your hair loss is really bad, ask your doctor about finasteride, but then ask him if you can get it compounded into like a topical cream. You're not going to have the side effects. I think it's probably even more effective. Like, things that are applied topically, if they're not too deep in the body, are generally a little bit more effective. So, no side effects. Yeah. And then it stimulates angiogenesis, the formation of new blood vessels. So, if any died throughout your hair loss journey, then hopefully you can get some back. But there's a lot of mechanisms that it appears to be correcting. And so I have women who they lose hair down the middle generally, and I have some women with like little mohawks that are growing, and it's really funny.
Yeah.
And awesome. And so my last comment is the reason I knew it was working was my girlfriend at the time was giving me a head rub, and she felt like all these like new little hairs growing, and I was like, and so she alerted me to it, and that's how it came to be.
Yeah, I have had such great success, and my clients have had great success either wearing a red light therapy cap or using a red light therapy device, also on their body, and on the top of their scalp. I think it's important. It's always important to really have that foundational lifestyle supporting all of these different modalities, because these are expensive devices. None of this is cheap, but it's certainly convenient to have it at your at any time of the day if it's at your house to use. But I think also nailing that lifestyle stress management, especially when you have hair loss involved, because that can really cause a lot of mental health issues. It can cause sleep disturbances because you're stressed out and anxious about the hair loss. So I think it's really important to stack all of these different protocols and have all these things in place in order to see positive results. The red light therapy, to me, in terms of adding it to a hair loss protocol, is going to speed things up, where if you weren't using it and you were doing other protocols, maybe you're going to start seeing things within like 6 to 9 months, but with red light therapy, I saw changes in 3 and 4 months, and so are my clients. So it's really incredible.
And just to touch a little bit on, just because I know, because I've done my research, because I had to fix my own scenario here with the hair loss, the things that I would avoid, creatine, I found that increases DHT significantly. Milk products seem to increase DHT. There's a lot of creatine in steak. I'm a huge fan. There's no way they're taking my steak away, so I'm gonna eat, but there's a lot of creatine in steak. Stimulants can increase DHT. They also vasoconstrict generally. So, which means they reduce blood flow. So you gotta be careful how much, caffeine you're taking. And then sugar, there is an inflammatory component to hair loss, in terms of androgenic alopecia anyways. So, you got to watch out for the sugary drinks. Those are the worst. And
Absolutely. Yep. That protein's really important. I'm not going to have anyone take my steak away from me either. You've got to
oh,
get that protein. And so many women are under eating protein. And,
mhm.
protein is our hair is made of protein. So the more, the merrier. So one of the things I work on with a lot of my clients is how to easily increase protein intake, because all of this matters, right? You can't just shine, a magic light on your body or your scalp and expect everything to turn around. You've got to get that lifestyle foundation set in place.
There's another thing. Sorry, I'm just like spurring out information as it comes to me. So they did a study on, so the other drug that they use for hair loss is called minoxidil. It's also known as, like, the brand name's called Rogaine. Um, there's actually a study, you can probably Google it. Peppermint oil compared to Rogaine. And they did it on mice, and they have pictures of it, and the peppermint oil works way better. So you can find, so essentially, like spearmint, peppermint, these kind of like minty things, what they do is they bring blood to the surface of the skin as well. That's why when you wash your hair with like a peppermint shampoo, you get that cold feeling. When you do a myofascial release, you actually get a cold to hot feeling. That's indicative of like a release and blood flow. And it's the same thing that peppermint does. It's actually the menthol in the peppermint oil. So they found that was responsible. The menthol is a vasodilator, and that's what Rogaine does. It's a vasodilator, brings blood. So, but minoxidil, I won't say Rogaine, but minoxidil is, it was first developed as an antihypertensive. And if you take a closer look at the scientific literature, they are not sure about the long-term consequences on your heart. So, that's a little worrying. Peppermint oil, I don't think you have anything to worry about.
I'm going to disagree with you there. I use Formula 82M, and many of my
Okay.
clients use that as well. And there's really
Okay.
no science that shows there's going to be any long-term health risks involved with cardiovascular disease. It doesn't interfere with any hormones as well. And it's such an easy application too. You can have it from a compounding pharmacy. So it's called Formula 82M, and there's other versions of it as well, not under that name of Formula 82M. But it has, 3 ingredients in there, and the application is so easy. So women can, Rogaine, when you put Rogaine on, it can be either oily, or the foam,
Definitely.
it could definitely interfere with how women style their hair, and,
Mhm.
have that feeling on their scalp. Where if you get it from a compounding pharmacy, it has an ingredient in there that helps it dry. It helps it be absorbed
Mhm.
into the hair follicle, but it also helps the drying mechanism on top of your scalp, so you don't have that oily feeling. I've been using it for on and off for 5 years, which, by the way, you don't want to use it on and off. It is a lifetime commitment. So that's
Yeah.
something for people to think about. But for me, at my age,
I'm not-
it works. I stack it with my other protocols. My clients
Absolutely.
are having success. And so I think I think you have to look at, what is your lifestyle like? What are you willing to do? Are
Nope.
you willing to commit to life for to use a product to help your hair growth or not? And so, and that is an individual, that's something for everyone to think about individually, what's going to work for them.
I from the so there are a couple studies that raise a little bit. The scientists are a little bit worried about it, but I personally, I don't think it wouldn't be enough for me to stop using it.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, I don't know what these studies, really, I haven't read into the studies or how they've actually come to find this conclusion. All I did was, I read the conclusion, and briefly a little bit of the studies. it wouldn't be enough for me to stop using that product. Absolutely. And obviously it works. So,
Yeah.
it's
But
you,
again,
I mean, at the end
yeah,
of the day, you're going to do whatever you can to stop the hair
exactly.
loss. Like,
Exactly.
you
You
know,
need to find what you can commit to on a daily level that works within your lifestyle. Let's
Mhm.
talk about sleep. Um, Sleep and red light therapy, because that's really been a game changer for me and just resetting my circadian rhythm. And what's your experience with the red light therapy and people with disruptive sleep?
So there's like I said, I fell asleep with the light on my head and it fell over and burnt a hole in my pillow. This is like I later found out why this was. So there's actually three studies that show there's a hypnotic effect induced by it's called transcranial photobiomodulation, which means light shining on the head essentially, um, and or through the skull. Um, and so I think for some people it can help if you shine it right on the top of the head like that, or even right on the forehead. I'm not sure. Sometimes the bright light can be, a lot of it's going to penetrate through the eyelids. So if they're not wearing goggles, then it could be like stimulating for them at night. But some people, as long as you're got something covering your eyes, shining light on the head, it could help you sleep. The other way that most people use it to help sleep is, so any wavelengths over 620 nanometers are they're essentially considered in the safe range. They don't deplete melatonin unless the light is super, super bright. So if you turn our lights on low power mode, it's going to be enough to illuminate your residence. We actually have my girlfriend right now is working in there, and see a little, maybe a
Oh,
little
okay.
red.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
just shutting off right now, just to balance the blue light.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, you can use it to illuminate your residence with wavelengths of light that are shown not to suppress melatonin. So I wear these glasses. We also sell red lens glasses, but quite frankly, I'm not a huge fan of them because they literally make the screen black and red. And if you're watching like King Kong or Avatar or something, it's like really lame. Actually, anything you watch is pretty lame. They're good for like on your phone in bed, like, but they're hardcore. I use these yellow lenses, and I just turn the fire wave on low power. And so when we're all watching TV, for example, in that cabin, the TV is like literally on the other side, and that fire wave is just shining there, and it just balances the blue light. It essentially it really takes the stimulation. So
Mhm.
Jack Cruz also says, and I just like some of his work. I like the way he refers to this stuff, and that's because it really just makes sense to me. Like he says, like blue light's like the methamphetamine of
Mm.
light, essentially, in terms of drugs, and it's just super stimulating. Um, and so the red light's very calming, and they're opposite ends of the spectrum. And if we have way too much blue light, and you just add a little bit of red light, it counteracts it. And there's actually a study. It's called, if you can type in Google, it's like red light counteracts the mitochondrial impacts of blue light, something like that. It's in some eye cells, but essentially the introduction of red light negated the negative impacts of the blue light on these cells in your eye called retinal ganglion cells. And I feel that's some supporting evidence, but I really feel like the red light just neutralizes the blue light. And there are some studies where on humans, I think female athletes, where red light applied in the evening increased levels of melatonin. um, so not only does it not drain your melatonin, it was shown to increase your melatonin.
So,
And
so if you're somebody who really struggles with sleep, do you recommend using red light therapy in the morning to help reset your circadian rhythm, or in the evening before you go to bed?
I think Yeah, that's a hard question. There's benefits to both, right? Because um yeah, I think hmm, that's a hard question. I would try shining it on your head at about 12. Sorry, there's a fly. There's so many flies up here. I always miss them. At 12 inches, like your hair should just be warm. Shine it on the top of your head for like 10, 15 to 20 minutes. Just lie down on a yoga mat, shine it, see if that helps with you make sure you're not getting, because when you turn our little lamp on, it's super bright.
Yep.
So make sure your eyes are kind of covered, that you're not exposed to that bright light, because even if it's in the red spectrum, if it's too bright, it can still deplete your melatonin. So you got to be careful with that. But and it's just so bright that it's very stimulating. So you want to cover your eyes if you're going to try that.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I got.
So for me, what I did was I used the red light therapy. I use it in the morning. And then like what you're saying, I use the red light, not the main light, to illuminate our room to balance
Mhm.
out the blue light. And I start
Yep.
that probably around 6 p.m., 7 p.m., or whenever the sun is starting to go down.
hmm And I see your lenses that, so those glasses that you're wearing, they have a coating on them, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's probably called Crizal Preventra. Essentially, that lens will block around 25%. These lenses will block 90%. Obviously, people don't want to wear yellow lenses all the time because, most people are like, what are you doing? And so, those are good for the daytime. The
Yep.
red lenses are really good if you're really having trouble with sleep. And then the yellow lenses are, they block 90% of the blue light. So
Yeah.
with the Firewave on low power plus yellow lens at night, I think it's almost the same as wearing like a red lens, which is super protective, but you don't have the color distortion on your TV.
Mm.
So you can enjoy it, you know what I mean?
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I've considered getting the glasses that you sell as well. If you wear contact lenses though, can you still wear those colored lens glasses?
I have never heard of any contraindication, but
Oh,
that it could be new. Yeah, no, I
okay.
I don't think so.
Okay.
No.
All right. So now I want to talk briefly about people wanting to go buy their first device and what to look for and what not to get. So I already said, please don't buy these devices on Amazon because you have no idea what you're getting. And they're usually more of a low grade um, device anyway, right? It's sort of like the hear loss caps that you can buy on Amazon are not at all the strength that you really need. And then people aren't going to see the results that they want. And they've
Hmm.
already spent some money. So walk us through what to look for in an at-home red light therapy device.
Yeah, so it's a really good question. And I do know a little bit about this because before we had some medical claim issues, but we did win Amazon's choice for our Firewave on Amazon, North America. It's a really bad business model relying on Amazon. They are a nightmare. So we decided a couple years ago, just enough with them. I think that so, yeah, the devices on Amazon, I mean, they're probably like decent red light therapy devices. Probably a lot of them have like really high EMF. Um, the thing about my company is a lot of the North American brands are so much higher than the Chinese resold stuff that some people will opt for the Chinese Amazon stuff. Our prices are so good that it doesn't it makes it and like it doesn't matter anymore. Like you can just trust the North American brand. The price is the same, and you're getting better quality. For example, we run like all lamps for 72 hours before we ship. If you have an inventory, if you have like a warranty issue, we ship you the thing to fix the lamp. So if your switch goes, that's generally the only thing that breaks on our lamps. If a switch breaks, we send you a new switch and we send you a new lamp and we show you how. So then you have two.
Right.
It's just little things.
But what about in terms of like strength, right? The more technical side of things. It's all very confusing. And a lot of companies that I found online are not very transparent about the power of their device. Your
Mhm.
website was very transparent. You list every technical, specific, piece of information about your red light device, which is why I went with you. But other ones, I felt that I was missing a lot of information.
Well, the thing is, honestly, it's really a little bit of a convoluted industry because, for example, with power measurements, so like it's called a radiance, the light power. You can use a solar powered meter, which most companies use. You can use a calibrated solar meter, or you can use a laser meter. Solar power is going to read way high. Calibrated solar meter, so it's calibrated to the near red and near infrared spectrum, is going to read a lot lower. And then a laser meter, which is actually the accurate reading, is going to read even lower. And so if everyone uses a solar meter in the industry, right? So if a company comes out and is actually honest about it and uses a laser meter calculation, all the customers are going to be like, well, I'm not going to buy that because it's so low. So there's a real issue in the red light therapy industry with that. That being said, there's other things you need to look for, like EMF. You need electromagnetic fields. They're generally, just to keep it simple, the lamps without metal, okay, in the front, are the worst, right? Some lamps just have like screens. Sorry, sorry, Jill.
That's okay.
Uh,
I'm
some
here.
some lamps just have screens, like you can
Yeah.
see through. It's like a piece of glass. Those are the worst. Stay away from those.
Why?
Yeah, because essentially, if you have metal in the front, it almost creates like a Faraday cage around the device,
Hmm.
and so it's better. It's better. Power drivers can influence EMF. They can also influence the flickers. So, if you go into your house and go on slow mo on your phone and record one of the LED lights in your house and put on slow mo, you'll notice that
Yeah.
it flickers.
Mhm.
Um, Ours won't do that. It's a result of the power driver that we use. Um, and we know that it can cause seizures in essentially like epileptic people, but people are beginning to realize that it could potentially affect a wider range of the population, and through like central nervous system dysregulation, because like your eye doesn't recognize it, but your brain does,
Yep.
and it's just bang, 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 bang the whole day. It's like,
Yep. Yep. And what about in terms of diodes? Does that matter? Like how many diodes are on a device and how that works for you?
so diodes can differ in strength. So you shouldn't be looking at the diodes. You should be looking at the watts and the power consumption.
Okay.
you know and don't be surprised if it's about 50% of the theoretical watts. For example, on our Firewave's 236, the actual power consumption is around like 100. That's pretty normal.
Okay.
um yeah.
Okay. That's good to know. Yeah, it's confusing out there buying a device. Um, so now you get your at-home device and now you're going to start using it. Is there a protocol to follow in terms of building up to time? And
Yeah.
what's the baseline and what do you top out at?
So I always say increase 5 minutes every day or every other day, just to assess your skin's tolerance. There's never any problems, but you want to be safe, safe than sorry. So 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, you're going to find your sweet spot around 20 and 25. If you have an Oura ring or something, then you can look at your HRV to see when it's highest and try and find your, accurate dosing. I think that's maybe a way to tell. Too much is not good. There's a biphasic dose response. So essentially it's like a bell curve. It's like, it's good. It's, you know, um, essentially at a certain point, the effects will start going down, and it can actually become negative if used too much. So red lights, like, yeah, it's a thing where you don't want to, overdo it.
So if you did like 5 minutes in the morning, maybe you were running short on time, could you go back in the evening and add in about 15 more minutes and be fine?
So I think, I think that using it two times for 20 minutes a day is okay.
Okay. And every day is safe.
Yes, every day is safe. Yeah, I used it on my head almost every day.
Is there anybody who should not be using red light therapy?
So anyone who shouldn't use it, people who have really sensitive skin, I'm talking really sensitive, they might not want to use it. If you have really like something's going on with your skin and you don't know what's going on, and the doctor doesn't know what's going on, I would be careful. I would, if you have some weird skin stuff going on, I would consult a doctor before you use it.
Okay, absolutely. All right. So as we come to a close, what are a few things that my listeners can do starting today to help them with red light therapy, to either think about going to purchase a new red light therapy device or just get started on something with their lifestyle to help support red light therapy in the future? What are a few things people can do?
I mean, I think our Firewave is like a really good introductory device.
That's the one I have. I love it.
Yeah, this thing's like amazing. Like, you can get full body irradiation with that small device, because
Yep.
if you sit and if you sit in like Buddha pose, like meditation pose, and you prop that little lamp up so that the central cob chip, the large diode is essentially in line with your sternum, and you sit in meditation pose, you can get full body irradiation at like 1.5 to 2 feet, and with significant power. So you can, for like $200, I guess it's around 200 US dollars, with your code, you can basically get a full body device. For anyone who's feeling like low on energy, I think it's worth trying. You can try using it with the coenzyme Q10. Those, both red light and coenzyme Q10, they both work on the energy in your body. They work both. They're going to synergistically increase the energy in your body. Um, you know, I think the Firewave's a great way to start. And yeah, I mean, you can't beat the quality. I mean, I'm probably a little biased as a CEO of the company, but I really don't think, I've always been like that, like I want to bring the best value to my customers. And I don't think well, no one's ever not happy, really. Like, yeah, I mean, we have 143 5-star consecutive reviews. I mean, everyone's really happy. So
I think the one thing I would like to add is for people to, again, get their lifestyle in check while you're either starting on your red light therapy journey or preparing to purchase a device. Just really check in with how are you eating? How are you managing your stress? How are you exercising? How are you sleeping? And just take note of all these things and keep a log as well. I actually kept a log in the beginning to see what changes were going on with my skin, with my energy, and with my my sleep, especially when I started using the red light therapy device. And I do love the Firewave. It's about what is it? It's about 8 inches a square.
7 inches by 7 inches by
So it's great for travel. We bring it on all of our trips with us as well. Yeah. So
Yep.
Kris, where can people find you and your products? And I will also include my code so people can receive a discount if they decide to order your devices. And you have all different devices. You have full body. You have a whole array of devices.
Yeah. So we have a lot of different devices. Actually, if I can get my new Firehawk, so we made a smaller Firehawk. If I can get the new one finished in time, it's going to be used on the female athletes at the US Open. So yeah, but I think the best place to start is with the Firewave. Like that device is so like versatile. Like it's generally like honestly all people really need. I never try and push people to buy anything more because I really think you can get most of the benefits from red light therapy with that small device.
Yep. I bought one for my son, who's a professional hockey player up in your neck of the woods, actually. And he absolutely loves it. He uses it every day, pre and post workout. He'll use it if he has any lingering pain in his shoulder or his knee or his hip. He'll use it,
Mhm.
he'll shine it right on that part, and he feels immediate relief. But where can my listeners
Yeah.
find you online?
So my website's EMR-Tek.com. So EMR-Tek.com.
And then you're
Yeah.
on Instagram as well.
Yep. So it's at EMR-Tek Inc. No dash
Okay.
between EMR.
And I'll put all of these notes on where to find you and your company and all your products online in the show notes as well. And Kris, it was such a pleasure meeting you. I really looked forward to having this conversation with you for a long time, and glad we finally got to connect and get this done. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Joe. I
All right.
appreciate it. You have a
Take care
wonderful
and
day.
have a great rest of your time in the woods.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Lifestyle changes can be hard and overwhelming to make. By building your support team of functional medicine doctors, therapists, and health coaches, you can reach your optimal health goals. Be sure to check out my other podcasts. Until we meet again, stay healthy.